All right, what's up, everybody? This is Toby with Online Security, and we are back for another machine from Hack the Box. This one is called Nineveh. We do have a write-up on Medium that I will be sharing in the description below. If you've liked the series that we've been going through, please do me a favor and smash the like button and make sure you're subscribed for future content. We're going to try to get through all the TJ Null OSCP boxes just for learning purposes and for fun. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I did pop a few shells on this the other day. Okay, so this isn't brand new to me, but I definitely wanted to come back through this just to walk through and reinforce some of the things that we could have learned. All right, so the first thing that we did obviously was run our nmap scans. So I had my nmap scans, and while I ran my nmap scans, I had some gobuster scans running too. If you're not familiar with gobuster, that's a directory scanner. It's going to scan it's going to take a word list to try to figure out if there are other directories lingering on the box that we just can't see. So nmap did show us a few things. If we look at the version scan that we ran, we can see port 80 is open and port 443 is open. Okay, this obviously we want to go and check the web pages, open up a web browser, see what's going on over there. But we got to keep in mind that we want to look at HTTP and HTTPS, and if we have HTTPS, there's going to be some certificate information, so we want to definitely look at that when we launch this web browser. So that's what we're going to do now. Oh, and one more thing, if you haven't mapped this out in your SE host file, make sure you do. All right, we have 10.10.10.43 mapped out to 9.hdb. Kind of get that hint here as well. Right, we typically just do this anyway. We have the .htb as the domain, just because Hack the Box typically follows the name and domain type of syntax. So if we go here, there's not too much going on the web page on port 80. Even if we look at the source code, there's nothing really going on here either. All right, so let's go check out the web page on port 443. Now over here, just a picture, same thing with the page, with this source over here. Nothing really going on, right? Click on that link, just brings you back to the same page. Nothing crazy going on here. But this certificate, right? I did find some information from the cert. If we go into the details, right, we get an email address, admin and nineveh.http. Right, I took a screenshot of this just to save it for later, because if we happen to get some type of login page and it is requiring a username, we have something to start with. All right, so that was really the biggest thing from the certificate that I got here. If it wasn't going to be fruitful for me later, it didn't matter. At least we found it, we saw it, took a screenshot, get into the habit of enumerating, looking for more information. All right, so not too much to start working on the exploit with just yet. This is where the gobuster scans come into play, right? There are two directories that I end up finding. We have this /department directory. This is over port 80. And then there's another one on port 443, which is this /db directory. Okay, this is this one that I'm hovering around right now, the /db directory. I'm showing it to you right there from Cherry Tree, only because I forgot to take it to save it onto my box here. All right, so this was the one I looked at first. Let's go ahead and check that out. It's not going to be over HTTPS. All right, it brings us to this login page. Okay, this was a good place to try to use the admin user account that we saw from the certificates. All right, if I just do admin here, we get invalid password, which is a good sign that maybe that was the right username. If we just try something else, username, it says invalid username. All right, so we know that admin is a user here, right? Because it's not telling us invalid username, it's telling us invalid password. All right, so cool. Next step is to try to get past this. At first, I tried a few SQL queries to see if that'll work. Nothing worked for me. So then I had started up Burp Suite to do some brute forcing with Intruder. But Burp Suite was just going so slow, and I really didn't feel like waiting for that. So I said, all right, what's next? What's faster? So we went with Hydra. All right, so for Hydra, let me see. I don't remember the syntax. Let's see where. All right, I have all these notes over here. All right, so this is actually what we use. So wait, no, don't start yet. So Hydra, let me make sure this is the right one. Department, yeah. So with Hydra, we're gonna do a brute force attack, trying to brute force that password. This is the username, the -L switch for the username, capital P. Since we're pointing to a word list, target's IP address. This is the type of attack that we want to do. HTTP post-form. This right here is the directory or the page that the login form is on. Okay, then you see this colon, which is going to be for our request, the body of our request, and then another colon, and this is going to be the syntax that you get from a failed password attempt. Now, we could have gotten all that information. You could have done it with burp as well. If you just go to inspect element, go over to network. If we were to just type in admin and then password here, hit enter, go to this post request right here. Let me see. So here is the request URL that we need for this part. That's the first argument here. Okay, that's that request. What was next after that? The body. So if you hit edit and resend and just scroll down a bit, here's the request body. So you copy and paste this right here. But notice how we switched out this password. We switched that out with this syntax to tell Hydra to brute force the password. And then after that, we have to put the string that we get from a failed login attempt, right? And the string that we got from here was invalid password. All right, and that should complete this entire Hydra command, which is why I tend to use Burp Suite first or something else first, because sometimes this can be a lot, but Hydra's pretty fast. So we'll let this run. While that is running, we can go ahead and look at the other, which is HTTPS DB. And this brought us to this phpLiteAdmin box, right? So automatically I'm thinking about another Hydra attack against this, right? To try to brute force into the password. It obviously has the username set somewhere for us. Yeah, I don't think I saw anything interesting here in the source page. No. All right, so before we try to do the brute force on this, just so we can let this finish running, we can go ahead and do some enumeration on whatever this service is right here, phpLiteAdmin, and we got a password back, which is cool. But let's do a search exploit on this first before we search exploit. And we get some some exploits back. This was the one we actually used here, 1.9.3. Okay, and if we Google it, I got the same thing right here, right? And we have 1.9. This is 1.9.3, and this is another one that's 1.9.6. Usually, when you see, when I see these that say multiple vulnerabilities, they just it's just like a blog, just multiple vulnerabilities that we could potentially target. Since this was something that was more specific, I just went with that to try to play around with it at first. And so this is the one that we're going to be using. So let's just go ahead and copy that, and then we'll go ahead and log into that /department login page. Okay, we're not gonna, I did look at this. All right, this SQL injection, we can take a look at, well, for the sake of time, we won't. Let me copy that down. So we'll save that, actually move this to the right directory. All right, cool. So before we go any further, we're going to start our hydra attack against this box right here. And while hydra is trying to pop that, we will be enumerating this with the credentials that we just found. So all I'm going to do to run hydra against the other box is change this to an HTTPS -post.form, then just hit F12 to open this up. I'll just send password as a password. So it's going to be db/index .php. Okay. Now we need the request body, which is all of this, but let's change this to pass. Copy that. Let's switch this out. And we gotta change this to incorrect password. Alright, so we can run that. Something went wrong. Optional parameter. Let's start with a slash. Oh, we got to put the / in front of DB. All right, we'll let that run. Let's copy this password that we got. I am going to save it on a notepad over here. /department. Alright, so admin with our username, password, bada bing, bada boom. So we got this, we're somewhere now, right? If we go over to the notes tab, we get some special information over here talking about, have you fixed the login page yet? Hard-coded username and password is really a bad idea. Check your secret folder to get in. Oh yeah, so, all right, one thing at a time. So this notes section, it doesn't look too interesting at first, but there was a gobuster scan that gave us this directory called secure_notes. Okay, secure_notes. When I read this came back to my mind, this secure_notes. Right, I had already went to the page. And it was just this picture. Right, when I first got here, when I first saw this, so I looked at this before even doing the brute forcing attack here, right? Because it was just something in the gobuster scan. So everything from gobuster that looked good, I had went to the pages to visit them and to see what it was about. This was something I did check out too, and when I had saved the image, I had ran it through some online stego tools. I ran it through exif tool to see if there was any metadata or just anything inside of it, but I couldn't find anything, right? And then after I completed the box, and then I went back to watch Ipsek's video to see how he did it, he actually found some keys inside of this picture, right? This picture, if you use the bin walk tool, and I think it's -E-M, and if you run it against that picture, it finds a public and a private key. You see you get private and public keys. We can actually use this to log in as Amros. Okay. But yeah, that's one way to get into that box here. We'll do it here. Let's go to SSH. Actually, we can't do it yet. It won't work yet. Remember, we only saw port 80 and port 443 open. Port 22 isn't open just yet. All right, I'll show you how to open that up. That was something else I saw from Ipsek's video. It's called port knocking, which is pretty cool. So we'll come back to that. So secret folder, got some keys, cool, can't use it yet, port 22 isn't open. Another interesting thing about this page is the URL over here, right? This looks like we can do some local file inclusion against this, notes equals, syntax, and which is what we did, right? It is what we'll have to do, but we need to do something before that to get a shell in the box, right? If we're going to use LFI, we want to use LFI to activate or execute some type of script that we have on the box already. Okay, so what we're going to do to exploit that is, or what we'll need to exploit that is this vulnerability that we took from Metasploit and this LFI vulnerability over here. All right, and I was playing around with this, trying to see if we could find some stuff, but I really couldn't get it to work. All right, I really couldn't get it to work. It just wasn't working out for me. But then after I had popped the box, and I'll show you, I'll try to remember later. But if I remove this, I think that's what I did. Like, I didn't even mean to do this. I was already done with the box, and I was just coming back, taking my screenshots and doing my write-up. And then I just decided to move, because I already saw I already had a shell, so I could read what was going on the directory structure and how the files and all the different pages and scripts were under that departments folder. So I had removed this just to see what it would do, and yeah, voila, we got this. I guess we could do some other things with it, but I'm not gonna pretend like this is what I used to get my shell. So those are the two interesting things about this page is, all right, this LFI vulnerability here and this secret folder right here. Now, this exploit 240.44.txt is going to allow us to put or store some type of PHP script onto this database. Okay, this is a database. It's going to allow us to store it onto that database, and we'll be able to execute it using this LFI here. Now, in order to do all of that, we need access into this box. So hydra, should have gave us that password. It was a pretty simple password. I think it was password 123. Yeah, that's what it was, password 123. Let's go back so we can read this file. All right, so let's log in here, password 123. All right, we are logged in. Now this exploit is pretty much, you create a database, right? You name it something.php, and then you will create a table inside of that database and store your script, whatever script you want to call back within it. And then you would just run it or activate it using this local file inclusion vulnerability here. So there's already a database already here created. So what I did was just created a table. We'll just call it HTTP. I think we only needed one field for this. And then this is right here is where you would put the PHP script that you want to call. Now I tried to use, well, this worked for me, right? I had used this just to set up and we can try it now, just so you can see it. So this right here is just going to set up a one-liner to start executing system commands on the box. I did that. This is here. Rename this. Now we're going to rename this to Nineveh notes. .php, because why .php? Because we have to name our database .php according to these instructions. So this is the database right here. So if we do this and cmd equals ls, we get some results back, right? That whatever the contents are in this departments directory or wherever we are right now is giving us back these results. Now this is cool and all, but the goal was to get a shell, right? And I couldn't get this to give me a shell to save my life. I tried to use burp suite. I threw so many different bash commands. Reverse shell commands, reverse shell scripts, bash, PHP, Python. I tried it all, it just wouldn't work. And then I used burp suite to try to unicode them. That still didn't work. Just couldn't get it to work. So what I was able to get to work was, instead of executing the reverse shell from the URL, what we ended up doing was just hosting some PHP files on our attacking machine. And hold on, where is it? There we go. Yeah, so what we ended up doing was just hosting some PHP on our machine and then doing a wget. So here it is, we'll walk it through. So wget is going to call back to our machine to pull down a reverse shell that we call tryme.php, and then it's going to store that on the box, on our victim box, as tryme.php. Then while we're still on the victim box, we're going to call that file, okay, which is essentially going to connect back to our netcat listener. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So for this to work, we first need to have a reverse shell, a PHP reverse shell that is named tryme.php, and I don't think I have that here anymore. I deleted it. Yeah, so we will copy let's get this one. We'll copy it as tryme.php. Gotta change the IP address. we'll use port 1234. And all right, that's there. So once again, we're just gonna wget that file down from our server. So it has to be on port 80 for this to work. Then it's going to store it and then execute it. So let's save this. I'm going to start up this web server using Python. And then I'm also going to start up a netcat listener on 1234. Okay, and we should be good. So let's go back and just call that, and we should got a shell. And we do. So we get shell as www-data. So what did we just do, y'all? All right, so this, we saw that the departments box was, or this departments directory had a local file inclusion vulnerability. Didn't really have a way to, well, initially when I did this on my own, I didn't have a way to fully exploit it for a shell. Okay, I didn't know that I could do the whole LFI thing until after I was done. All right, that was just playing around. So then after I was not really at a dead end, I knew I just needed something else to upload, to be able to upload the PHP script, which was this vulnerability here. All right, so this vulnerability allows us to create a database on the box. It's going to store we can create a table within that database that stores our PHP script, whatever shell or whatever commands you want to start throwing at it. And we will then we did access it from this page here using that LFI vulnerability. So that's how we got this shell on the box right now. Remember that PHP script, all it's going to do is grab this tryme.php file and then execute it while it's on the box. Now I'm not going to try to, what I'm getting ready to explain, I'm not going to try it again now, but when I first got my shell, obviously the first thing we want to do is upgrade it upgrade it to a PTY shell. That didn't work for me. It kept crashing the box over and over and over. The box is using Python 3, but for some reason I just couldn't I wasn't able to upgrade my shell. And that's what I want, right? That's what we all want. We want to have a normal working shell where we can tab things out and be able to move freely. So what I had to do instead was create I created this, let's see if I can, here we go. I created this ELF file. Okay, and then this ELF file, I'm gonna upload it up here using wget. This was just my workaround to get in a better shell so I could do what I wanted to do. Make sure this doesn't die out on me. Move this to downloads. And then wget that down. What's it called again? Said it wasn't found. Oh. And we don't even have access here. So I'm going to change directory to temp and then do it again. But this time I'm going to spell it right. Shell 64.elf. ELF. That's there. Change the permissions on that. Start up a listener before we run it. Shell 64.elf. 64.elf plus X. Probably gotta add a space in there. Alright, so why didn't it run? There we go. All right, so now, no, okay. So now let's do Python 3, import pty.spawn, bin bash, boom, okay. And then background that, sty, raw dash echo, sty raw dash echo. All right, cool. All right, so now we got a better shell now. We can actually open this up over here. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this too. I'm going to open it up over here. All right, now that we're on the box, what I did next, did some regular enumeration, right? Who am I? Well, not who am I. Sudo-L, that doesn't give us anything. I'm not going to run that again. Started checking netstat to see what was running. Okay, you can see that port 22 is, it's open, right? But externally, it didn't say it was open. This wasn't something that I had used. I had overlooked it until I saw IPSEC's video, so we'll talk about that later. All right, nothing else going on over here, right? Uname-a could have went down this rabbit hole, but what I did was uploaded linps and linunum to the box, but linps showed me that there was a directory running under root. Okay, that directory under root was called reports, or report actually. Okay, and this report is these files are being generated every minute. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So something is running those things, right? Every minute it's on some type of cron job. Well, maybe if we can find out whatever process or file is running these reports every minute, maybe we can substitute that with something of our own, right? Maybe a shell. Okay, so that's one thing we could do. But before even we start thinking like that, let's look at what's in these files. Okay, you can see searching for anomalies in shell history file. This is not infected. This is not infected. Not found. Not infected. Looking at it, it found that our PHP files were suspect. That's funny. But I wasn't, when I first started reading through this stuff right here, I didn't know. I mean, I could tell what I was looking at. It looks like a virus scanner. It's scanning for things to see if they're infected or not, but I wasn't sure what virus scanner, whether it was McAfee or who it belonged to. So what I did was just copied any of these lines and I ran it through Google. And then Google just starts talking about CHK rootkit, right? CHK rootkit, CHK rootkit, CHK rootkit, right? It's going to be the common theme here, right? So the light bulb goes off in the head. Is there an exploit for CHK rootkit? And sure enough, there is, right? And this is actually what we use to get root. Now the thing about CHK rootkit that I learned is it's an anti-malware that's actually looking for rootkits on your box. Okay, and with this version in particular, or in other vulnerable or other versions that are vulnerable to this exploit, CHK rootkit, when it starts up, it's actually starting up another executable called update. And that executable called update lives in the temp directory, right? But it's not here right now. They don't have it here. So I'm not sure if the update just gets started, it gets created and then disappears, or how that works, right? But according to this exploit, when chk rootkit starts up, it is going to start an executable called update, and it will start that executable as the same user chk rootkit was started as. Right, and it kind of talks about it right here towards the end of this file. It says put an executable file name update with non-root owner in the temp directory. The update file will be executed as root, thus effectively rooting the box. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Right, that's literally what we are going to do. So let's create another shell on a different port, and we'll call it update. 444. And we will call this one update. And we will start up another listener on port 4444 to get that shell back as root. This is started. I'm going to go ahead and start up PyWeb. PyWeb is just an alias for that Python web server script we keep typing up. So instead of typing out that entire that line, not that it's a long line or anything, we're just going to type that. All right, so now the update file is there. We have to make this an executable file. If we look at it now, it is not executable. It's just read write, read write, read write. So we will shema plus x that update file, and then within, dang, we got our shell right on time. Who am I? We are root. Okay, and from here we can upgrade our shell to PDY, do the same process that we did before. But that's it, y'all. This was a pretty cool box. Some things, some takeaways from this would be, well, we can talk about the takeaways as we recap the box. So how did we get into this first? We saw that port 80 and 443 were open, and we went over there to port 80 and 443, but there wasn't too much going on right there. Those web pages didn't have any information for us to get a shell back to start trying to escalate privileges, right? So fortunately, our directory scanner, gobuster, did return some results. Returned this page here, the department page, which had a local file inclusion vulnerability, right? So to prevent this local file inclusion vulnerability, maybe some type of input validation script, or a better input validation script. And before we even get to this LFI vulnerability, remember the weak password that we were able to brute force with Hydra. That needs to become more complex to prevent something like that from happening again, because if that password wasn't so weak, we probably would have never found out about this LFI vulnerability, right? Not to say leave the vulnerability here if we strengthen the password. Both of them need to be mitigated. All right, so that was that. Then we also found this .db or /db directory from gobuster. Once again, another weak password that should have never been there. Password 123. I mean, we know it's vulnerable on purpose, but key takeaway: fix that password, and then upgrade this version of phpLiteAdmin to something a little bit more secure than what it has now. Right, that will prevent us from being able to store malicious files on the web server. And fixing the stuff here, as we talked about, would prevent us from being able to execute those malicious files, which is how we got our first box, our first shell back. Okay, and then to escalate our privileges, we abuse that vulnerability in chk rootkit. Okay, my personal opinion, to mitigate that local privilege escalation is to either the obvious upgrade that chgrp rootkit to something less vulnerable, or maybe start, if you can, start that program with another user besides root, right? Something with least or limited privileges. So even if somebody were to put an update file in there, they wouldn't get a shellback as admin or root. But we don't want them on our box regardless, right? So we want to close up all the loopholes before that even started. All right, but that is it, y'all. This was a pretty cool box. Definitely a lot of good things to learn from it. Oh, actually, one more thing before we go. Now, port 22 is closed, right? From our end, from our nmap scan, we got that port 22 was not open. Right, only 80 and 443. But when we are on the box and we ran that netstack command, we could see that it was open. 22 is open. And so there's this little firewall trick that there's a little secret handshake that's going on here in order to use port 22. So if a user wanted to SSH into this, I guess their client would have to be programmed to do the port knock handshake, right? Port knocking, or let's forget about port knocking for now, but if a user, a legitimate user, wanted to SSH into this box, their client, I'm assuming, would have to know the secret handshake to reveal port 22. Okay, in order to reveal port 22 based on some configurations that's going on here, you have to, I guess, do a three-way handshake with 3 or 4 other ports first, right? That's the secret handshake, and then port 22 will be revealed. But we can do that on our own. We can maliciously, we can do the port knocks to open this up. I did have a script that it's just going to do it for us. It's going to do the nmap scan to knock on the other 3 ports that need to be pinged before revealing port 22, or before this can be open as a service on our end locally, right? So in other words, if we want to see port 22 open right here, we have to go ahead and perform that secret handshake, which is known as port knocking. Okay, so port knocking, that is configured in this directory etsy knockd.conf. If we go to vim etsy knockd.conf, you can see that for OpenSSH, the secret handshake, you have to communicate to port 571, port 290, and then port 911. Okay, now I do have a script that is going to do that for us. I didn't make this script. It's not a difficult script to make. I gotta find it first. I actually think it is over here. No, that's not it. Let's do, let's see. No. No, that's not it either. Where could it be? Let's check here. Here we go. So this is the scan here. So it's saying, hey, for X, in this range, for not in this range, but for these ports right here, we want you to do this. We want you to do this nmap scan for each one of these 3 ports. Alright, so it's going to just scan it. Right, it's just going to scan it for each of those ports. That will be the secret handshake. You see 571, 290, and 911. That's what we have to communicate with before port 22 is revealed to us. So we're going to run that. We talked to 571. We talked to 290. Now we talked to 911. So now we should see port 22 open. And now it's open, right? At first it was closed, but now it's open. If we go here and then SSH as Amros at 10.10.10.43-I has to be our private key, and we are logged in. And apparently we have mail. But that's it, y'all. This was something that I figured out after watching IPSEC's videos. I like to watch his videos after I have finished going through a box, just to learn how he did it. Not only his videos, there are a few other people that I like to watch after popping my shells. It's good to watch other professionals, and I mean, not even just watching other people's walkthroughs, understanding how they did things, how their brains work, why they started assessing the services that they were, and how they were able to get through it. That's always good. It's always been beneficial, so I try to practice that. And good thing I did, because I would have never known about this port knocking exploit that can come in handy in the future. So other than that, y'all, please check out the write-up. If you like this video, do me a favor and hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I will see you all next time. Please stay safe. Hold on to your loved ones. Give them a kiss. Let them know that you love them. Peace out, y'all.